It should never have happened. And it created the kind of shock and outrage we associate with words like Chernobyl, Challenger, and Bhopal. In the aftermath of the Triangle Fire of 1911, New Yorkers demanded and got some of this country's first worker protection laws. A movement had been born from fire. Its purpose, to make certain that New Yorkers work safe and well. New York, with its tradition of progressive legislation, leads the nation in the protection of its workers. Through a variety of safety and health programs operated by the State Labor Department, we check everything from elevators to asbestos. We protect the public employees who repair our bridges, tend our parks, and work in our hospitals. We fund local programs that correct hazards at public facilities. We show employers how to comply with safety and health guidelines. The success rate has been dramatic. With 8% of the nation's population, New York has only 1% of work-related fatalities.
We compare favorably, most importantly, on the bottom line. When you look at accidents, when you look at fatalities. The bad news is that any fatality is a statistic that we don't want to sit back and say that's acceptable. So we want to continue to work very hard at making sure that we have those statistics down to the absolute minimum.
To help New Yorkers work even safer, the Department of Labor has inaugurated an innovative new program. It's called the Safety and Health Training and Education Program, and it's acting to bring labor and management together to confront everyday work hazards as never before. Who's eligible? Educational institutions, joint labor management groups, labor unions, nonprofit organizations, public and private employers, and trade associations. In short, any organization of working New Yorkers. Grants are awarded each year to projects designed to create a safer, healthier workplace.
We have awarded tens of millions of dollars to a variety of industries. We are interested in reaching as many people as possible with whatever program is being developed. That's a major concern. One of the other things we look for is the level of the hazard.
Checking acid levels in auxiliary power batteries is just one of many potentially hazardous job tasks for workers at Alltel, a local telephone company serving western and central New York.
We had two different types of accidents that caused us problems. One were people had an accident each year. They weren't extremely serious, but they had a history of accidents or a pattern of accidents. The other was that if we did have an accident, that the person was out of work for 200, 300, 400 days. So we applied for a grant through the New York State Department of Labor to produce a couple of our own safety videos.
With the state grant, Alltel was able to purchase video equipment and create the training presentations. Members of the company's own craft union starred in the first video, which focused on hazardous substances in the workplace. Nearly everyone at Alltel viewed it. Soon the company had reduced its inventory of hazardous chemicals by 50%.
The other video was used specifically for people that had had a serious accident and they were returning to work. Before they could go back to their job, they went through this 8-hour program in order to make sure that we knew they understood some of the safety rules and regulations and weren't likely to have another accident after that.
I think many people benefit by seeing these videos and training films because it gives them ideas, things that they haven't thought about safety-wise.
You do feel that now you're looking for other safe items that you weren't really thinking about before.
Since we completed the safety training programs, we've noticed a dramatic fall in the severity of accidents and in the number of accidents. I think it's really working.
Alltel's videos are now reaching far beyond the company's own workers. Cassettes are shipped free of charge to 42 other members of the New York State Telephone Association.
We find that there is this rippling effect and that other companies can take advantage of the programs and training materials that have already been developed through our grant process.
The Alltel project is just one of many in our state now educating workers with a grant from the Department of Labor. It's part of a fundamental addition to the ways New York is protecting its workers, emphasizing cooperation versus confrontation.
I would submit that a major success is avoiding an accident. Not to go in after it and say, yes, Mr. Employer, you did something wrong, but rather to educate employers, unions, and employees about how to affect that safe workplace in the first instance. You name the group and the unique circumstances that they face in the health and safety area in the workplace, and we have a grant that's available to go out and look at that issue.
It's a shock to think that someone could be crippled making the clothes we wear. But garment workers, and there are more than 100,000 just in New York City, risk a number of serious physical problems.
To sit in front of a sewing machine 8, 9, 10 hours a day, trying to make enough money to support yourself, means sitting in a static position all day long on a chair that doesn't fit you, in a machine that is not adjustable for your height. Little by little, we're finding out that these seemingly innocuous workplaces are hiding sometimes very deadly problems for the people who work in them.
When we finish the job, we feel pain sometimes in the hand and sometimes at the back, right here.
One of the most serious and painful problems for garment workers is called carpal tunnel syndrome.
Carpal tunnel syndrome is a degenerative nerve disease that's caused by repetitive motion. And eventually, it's an extremely debilitating and painful disease, and it prevents a person from working after a while.
A grant from the Safety and Health Training and Education Program is now in place to reduce this potentially disabling disease in the garment industry. With state funding, the International Ladies Garment Workers Union is setting up a model garment shop and has hired an ergonomist to engineer stress-reducing workstations. Eventually, all garment union workers will benefit.
Well, we're particularly excited about this grant because it's really giving us the opportunity to demonstrate how to prevent carpal tunnel syndrome by redesigning a workstation in a garment shop. This can be done very inexpensively and very practically, and that it's not going to mean a huge upheaval in the way they do things. It's minor changes, but major changes for the human body.
The model garment shop will help workers to stay healthy, and it will also save taxpayer dollars because of reduced workers' compensation costs.
When we have a worker that's out in the field that's been trained over a period of years, hurt, or injured on the job and taken out of service, the industry loses an asset.
Management doesn't need employees that are absent from work as a result of injuries.
The worker happens to be the most important part of any business. And when you pay attention to the safe working conditions, you're protecting that particular asset.
The Department of Labor's Safety and Health Training Program is a simple, affordable way to comply with the state's right-to-know law and the federal hazard communication standard. Both obligate employers to educate workers about on-the-job hazards. That's why New York City agencies were glad to see District Council 37 in a joint grant with the city's Safety and Health Office set up Train the Trainer programs for workers citywide. Now Parks Department workers are teaching co-workers how to use respirators and protective clothing. Printers are showing printers how to handle chemicals that can be silent killers. Dental workers are training fellow employees to avoid contagious diseases while they work. Ultimately, this program will affect more than 2,000 city workers. In the process, it will prove not only that labor and management can work together, but also that workers themselves can become a primary force in creating a safe and healthy workplace.
One of the great parts about the program is the flexibility of the program. It is flexible enough to deal with the changing technologies, the changing work environments, and the changing priorities of labor and management across the state.
One of today's most immense environmental job hazards is asbestos. Here in Queens, New York, sheet metal workers are learning how to deal with this known carcinogen.
The Sheet Metal Workers International Union recognized years ago that our members were dying at an alarming rate.
They never told us anything about it. In fact, that's what I think was the crime. They kept on saying it'll never harm you.
My 3 younger brothers are asbestos contaminated, and many of my close friends are asbestos contaminated, and many of my close friends have passed away with mesothelioma or suffering from asbestosis today.
Asbestos, used for years as insulation, now contaminates countless buildings in our state and across the country. One thing is certain, it must be contained or removed. It will take informed workers to do it.
The grant monies are being used to train our journeymen and our apprentices and our classified workers, not only to be aware of it, but these people are being licensed to be able to go in and work with it, work around it, actually remove it, and dispose of it.
A total of 7 local New York State unions are taking part in the training.
To me, the biggest net result of this program is the protection of the workers. Our contractors are very concerned about putting their people into a hazardous environment. I'm very happy in the state of New York that we're able to do this in all our locals.
I see an increased spirit of cooperation between labor and management in this program, as evidenced by the number of joint grants that are coming in now.
We want the employers to help and absolutely think of how much money this will eventually save the employer as well as the workers.
Examples of labor management cooperation make up a long list. For instance, a grant to Cornell University has created a data resource center that's helped 2,000 small businesses get the facts they need to educate their employees. Research by the Communications Workers of America into video display terminal hazards will have an impact on the working conditions of thousands of New Yorkers.
It would be in the interest of every company in New York State, whether they employ 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, to look into programs of this nature. It's the right thing to do. It benefits both parties, labor and management, and we ought to get on with the job of trying to be competitive in a very, very difficult global atmosphere.
There are still more successful examples. A grant at Bassett Farms, teaching 200 migrant farm workers how to protect themselves from agricultural hazards. Now others are using it as a model. Funding to the Center for Safety in the Arts is teaching performing artists that stage safety is an essential part of stagecraft. And Town and Country Transit is giving its drivers special training to protect the safety of their passengers.
I like to say that safety is our #1 concern at Town and Country Transit. We transport a lot of clients of various agencies. Some of these people have developmental disabilities, physical disabilities, and these individuals very often need a specialized type of care, a specialized type of transportation.
Town and Country Transit in Norwich, New York is a small local transportation company carrying about 500 passengers a day.
We operate in a very rural area. Very often the types of passengers that we have may be subject to medical emergencies. It's a lot more than what normally might be provided by a transit operation.
With state funding, Town and Country has launched a series of 10 safety training sessions covering everything from the hazards of winter driving to dealing with unique passenger needs.
The morale fluctuates from day to day depending on personalities, but I think that with more training of more drivers, I think it's going to get better all the time.
We certainly want to instill a consciousness for safety in our staff, but we have limited resources to do it. Much of the training that we're doing simply would not take place without the Department of Labor grant.
To date, Town and Country's training has been so successful that it's been expanded to include another transit operator in the area.
We're watching accident rates go down. We're watching people becoming better informed. We're watching management saying, hey, wait a minute, perhaps we shouldn't build the widget like that because it can cause harm. And we're watching employees make constructive suggestions before the fact rather than after the fact. That's great. And it saves people from getting hurt.
The uniqueness of this program is that what it does is send a message with a program to the business community that here is a program that you can get involved in, and it'll mean workers being healthy, workers being happy on the job, and in the long run, less lost time, lower insurance premium, less lawsuits, which in the long run translate out into more profit.
The Safety and Health Training and Education Grant Program is available for any organization of working New Yorkers.
Without these funds, we simply would not be able to provide this training.
We want the people to have this training and education. That is, I think the board is that concerned about the workers.
And what I think is wonderful is those people that had been having accidents year after year after year have not been since they've been through that program.
Every day in New York, some 8 million men and women report to work sites across the state and face all the hazards at all different levels and all different varieties. Health and safety is frankly one of the areas where labor and management can work together and make a real difference.
And this goes for any type of an industry. Where you make an investment up front in a worker, you don't want that investment to be wiped out because of your negligence in the field of safety.
If you're trying to deal with the workplace condition between management and labor, you're far better off trying to resolve that through an education program like the ones that are coming out of the health and safety aspect of the Labor Department. That makes sense. That's non-adversarial, it's flexible, and it's a good way to do it.
We are committed in New York State under this governor, Mario M. Cuomo, to ensure that every workplace in the state is a safe and healthy workplace.